prompt. This is our 2024 annual general meeting for Common Approach. We are very excited to share with you progress over the last year and to hear from our staff about the incredible work that they've been doing. And then the last half hour of the meeting will be for board business and voting in our new board members. So I will actually pass it over to Kate.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Kate Ruff, the Executive Director of the Common Approach to Impact Measurement. We are a fully virtual organization, and the way we do land acknowledgements is by having the presenter speak about the specific land they are on, because the organization itself doesn't really exist. Well, it exists in the clouds. So I am speaking to you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. When I do land acknowledgements, I try to make them very specific to myself, the land, and the work. So I want to talk to you today about this oak tree. My specific relationship with this land is strongest in my morning runs and evening walks along the Kitchissippi, which you know as the Ottawa River. And in that particular part of the path where I do my runs and my walks, there's like a 5-7 kilometer, 10 kilometer stretch with a lot of beautiful, beautiful old oak trees. In fact, when the explorers first came in the 1600s and were documenting in writing what they were seeing as they came along the Kitchissippi, they described this area as full of oak trees. In fact, there is an Algonquin Anishinaabe village camp that was right across the river from me called Mikiming or Misiming, where the oaks grow. So my specific land is just a wee half-kilometer north of Mikiming. I'm going to expand on that to try and connect these oaks to the work we are doing at Common Approach. And the next thing I want to do is read from you a passage from Braiding Sweetgrass. It's the author is describing entering into university as a botanist. She says that from a childhood in the woods to a university, she had unknowingly shifted between worldviews. And she talks about the difference between botany and how she had grown to understand plants. The questions botany raised were not, who are you, but what is it? No one asked the plants, what can you tell us? The primary question was, how does it work? The botany I was taught was reductive, mechanistic, and strictly objective. Plants were reduced to objects. They were not the subjects. And then she goes on to say, the way botany was taught didn't seem to leave a lot of room for a person who thought the way I did. One of the things we really think about at Common Approach is power and structures and hierarchies and worldview, and particularly understanding Indigenous approaches to impact measurement and making sure we are inclusive of them. And I'm going to reread that paragraph as a criticism of a lot of impact measurement. So the questions impact measurement raised were not, who are you, but what was it? No one asked the people whose lives were most affected, what can you tell us? The primary question was, how does it work? What works? The impact measurement that we are often taught is reductionist, mechanistic, and strictly objective. And humans are reduced to objects. They are not subjects. Now, this was a story about plants, and I've spun it into, taken her words and turned them into one about impact measurement. But I think that criticism holds, and I think there's a worldview story that I want to acknowledge as part of our land acknowledgement as a gift from this oak, where we are going to see, I'm now going to quote again, plants as teachers and companions with whom we are linked in mutual reciprocity, from whom we can ask, what can you tell us? Later on in this presentation, I am going to talk about a learning we've had from oak trees and how it informs how we think about our frameworks. But the next thing I want to do is talk about our guiding principles. So if you can stay with me on this long land acknowledgement, which is veering away from land, but speaking to reconciliation. Many of you will have seen these guiding principles before. They are on your screen in their shortened version. A reminder that these guiding principles were written back in 2019 before Common Approach was an organization, was even a thing. And they were written by what was called the Transitional Governance Group that did two things. It wrote these guiding principles and it recruited the first board of directors based on these guiding principles. And since 2019, any new board member, committee member, or staff member who comes on reads and learns about these principles and signs onto them. I'm going to read the first one to you in its summary form. The common approach is shaped by all its users. I'm now going to read you the second one in its more detailed form. We recognize that both impact measurement and standard setting are practices associated with power, permitting action at a distance. We are committed to building impact measurement standards that place power with operating charities and social purpose businesses and those they serve, rather than focusing primarily on the impact measurement needs of foundations, grant makers, and impact investors. I'm now going to skip a bunch of very important text and bring you to the italics. See if I can get you to pay attention here. In all of the above, we specifically recognize the colonial histories present within impact measurement and many contemporary data practices, and that they can promote a universalist colonialist worldview and clientelism instead of self-determination. All right, so we are recognizing that impact measurement is asking, how does it work and what is it, instead of who are you and what can you tell us? And jump with me further down here to impact measurement practices. We further recognize that impact measurement practices existed pre-contact. So acknowledging that there are Indigenous approaches. What I want to highlight with this is that from our beginning, we have understood that part of our duty with creating standards was to do so in an inclusive way that did not leave anyone behind. Et brièvement, en français, bien, nous reconnaissons spécifiquement les histoires coloniales présentes dans les mesures d'impact, dans les nombreuses pratiques, etc. So, en français. What we've been doing this year that I would like to end this land acknowledgement on, and we is a bold statement. Marissa Hill joined forces with Common Approach and has been doing some incredible work to help us understand how the Common Approach can ensure that Indigenous worldviews and Indigenous practices have space within what the Common Approach is putting forward. We're very careful that Common Approach does not want to create an Indigenous impact measurement standard. In fact, we have heard that from the circle that an impact measurement standard is not wanted so strictly. But we do want to make sure that an Indigenous person can come with their ways of knowing and their practices and find a pathway through our standards without feeling that they're bumping up against brick walls and being constrained. So what we did is we brought in the work of Indigenous elders, Elder Wendy and Mark Phillips, and Marissa Hill convened a circle of amazing Indigenous leaders who are deeply familiar with impact measurement. And this particular work was focused on Indigenous approaches to impact measurement in the context of impact investing. And so these people also really understand impact investing. They have done some great work thinking about what is an Indigenous approach to impact measurement in the context of impact investing. And what would be the path forward to making that stronger and making space in the impact measurement world and the impact investing world for Indigenous approaches to flourish. I believe my team is going to put a link to the story in the chat for you. What I want to highlight for you when you get this link is that there is this beautiful document discussing reclaiming, restoring, and requiring impact measurement systems to change. And I want to read one highlight for you. And this is sort of describing impact measurement in an Indigenous way. So at the start of our work, we asked our communities, the land, water, and the skies that surround us, what impacts looks like, and how will we know we are moving toward that? And I'm going to echo. We are asking, what can you tell us? This is, asking the plants, what can you tell us? And the people, what can you tell us? Instead of what works so quickly. And we build impact measurement methodologies that wrap around that. Throughout the life cycle of that work, we spend time with these same communities, lands, water, and skies, to learn if and how we are moving toward that vision and what story we want to share about it. So some beautiful text about impact measurement led by the incredible Marissa Hill, and a huge thank you to her. and connected to an botany through the wonderful braiding sweetgrass, and to an oak tree through my run, which is on a land that the Anishinaabe people called Mimiking, the land of the oaks.
Thank you, Kate. That was really wonderful. And I so appreciate you sharing it with us and also doing the work yourself. You're such a leader in that aspect, and I really appreciate it. So I'll just share the agenda, and I should have mentioned off the top, my name is Annette Bertner, and I'm the chair of the board at Common Approach. And during my day job, I work at Future of Good. So from 3 to 4, this is the portion of the meeting where Kate will introduce the governance team and the staff. And this is really very much the staff that is leading this, because we will hear highlights and milestones from this past year, and then also what's coming looking ahead. And then from 4 to 4:30, we'll have the official business where we vote in our new board members and we review the financial statements. So thank you, Kate. Back over to you.
All right, core of what the Common Approach does, the number one principle is be community driven, shaped by our users. And we do that through a variety of methods, but probably the most structured and formalized and crucial are our various governance groups that keep us informed and accountable about the community. So I'm just going to talk through those briefly, introducing those who help shape the Common Approach and its standards. The first is the Data Standards Technical Committee. This is an incredible, strong group of very technical people who bring their knowledge to inform our data standards. And the data standards are hard work because they require in-depth knowledge of ontology and impact measurement and implementation around software to really do a good job. So each of these people brings a specific focus in one of those areas, and together we are well guided. This committee has helped to shepherd through 2 versions of the data standard, version 2.1 and version 3, and got those versions through public review. And the committee is now in its 2nd year. We have some new faces. And so if you were here last year, I'd like to, well, I'm not going to name all of them. James, Chantal, Sylvain, I am going to name them all. Alex, Murat, Art, Alexandra, and Liz are all new. And then Daniela, Mark, and Bart have been formative for the Common Approach for some time. I'd also like to give a shout out to the incredible Social Purpose Organization Council. This group ensures that we are meeting the needs of the operating charities and social purpose businesses. The council was launched last year. These fine people collaborate with and advise the Common Approach staff to ensure that we are meeting the needs of organizations like theirs, to make sure we are centering and serving the needs through our ongoing standards development. We started our work with the Social Purpose Organization Council on the question of software adoption and how to make that easier for many organizations. It is crucial to using the Common Approach. And right now we are looking at how Common Approach can more effectively communicate vision and benefits, because it can be a little hard to wrap your head around when you're a social purpose organization. We'll have a chance at the end of the meeting to meet the board and the staff team, but very briefly, I wanted to note that the board of directors is the main governing body of the Common Approach. They are recruited from social purpose organizations and impact measurement communities and are representative of those communities. They oversee the work of the staff, which is the secretariat, and the staff team does all the operational and execution coordination, generally connecting to community. I'm now going to go through some highlights and milestones from the past year. I'm just going to start with the Pathfinder pilot, which is led by the amazing Garth Ewell, who is unfortunately off camera with a pretty substantial back issue. So you do not get to hear from him. You are stuck with me for another few slides, but all of this great work is thanks to him. So the Pathfinder pilot continues to be a central focus of our work. We get a lot of learning and insights from how our standards work in the real world. A reminder, the objectives of the Pathfinder pilot are to deepen our understanding and generate evidence about the changes and benefits within both social purpose organizations and their networks that result from implementing the Common Approach standards, to build a community of engaged social purpose organizations and networks that will continue to work with the Common Approach and refine the standards in the long term. So this is key. If you're going to be shaped by your users, you really need some users. And these guys have been really willing to be those first guinea pig users. We're very grateful to them. And to inform the development and refinement of key elements of the standard of the Common Approach. The Pathfinder pilot is now in its second year. The understandings we are gaining with these Canadian organizations are helping us to develop our standards in a flexible, community-driven way, developing learnings and best practices that we hope will offer benefits to impact measurement globally. The three networks that are participating in the Pathfinder pilot are the Network for Optimizing Food Impact. This is a network that's working towards bringing more food to communities of need and strengthening local food systems through community-driven innovation. The Community Lending Network, which consists of community loan fund partners who share an aligned goal of providing access and capital to underserved communities. And the Newfoundland Labrador Social Enterprise and Innovation Coalition, which was formed to develop and promote well-articulated, robust social finance ecosystem in Newfoundland and Labrador. Things are moving along slowly but surely. So when we presented to you last year, all three networks were approaching or just reaching their first data export. Software is so crucial to how the Common Approach works, or these digital utilities. But that has been a big hurdle for us, understanding how to make these desirable to social purpose organizations. The softwares are incredible, but there is a shift, and getting there has been a journey. So that's where we were last year. Now, all three organizations have used digital utilities and software to export their data, and a framework has been built. And in some cases, second rounds of data have been exported, and additional frameworks have been built. So, major milestone. This is how the Common Approach works. I think I mentioned SPOs get to use their own software. Those softwares have beautiful user interfaces that make it so easy for social purpose organizations to track and record and collect impact data. They get to choose the one that suits them. All of those aligned softwares can export a uniform-looking JSON LD file that is written in the Common Impact Data Standard format, so that it can go into any of the funders or the network software, and that data can be well structured and more organizing. And we have done it. So yay, key learning. The Common Impact Data Standard works the way we want it to work. Then we've been building the frameworks. So here is our learning from the oak tree we got here. What you have there are all sorts of oak leaves. The oak tree that was in my first slide on the landing acknowledgement was a bur oak. There is also a white oak and a red oak on these leaves. And what we are trying to do with the common frameworks is acknowledge that things can be absolutely different, while also in some ways the same. So all of these are oak leaves. They share something in common, even though when you look at them, they are objectively different. That is our concept, our learning from the oak trees. In impact measurement speak, what this looks like is we have indicators and outcomes from three SPOs, and those are linked into common headline indicators and connected to themes that the network, we're talking about the Pathfinder pilot, so it's networks, but if we were talking about the Social Finance Fund, it would be investors or portfolios can use to aggregate and tell their story. So here is an example, loosely anonymized, from one of the Pathfinder participants, and it tells the story of how they are working with people, training them, engaging with them, creating jobs, support, and that is leading to one of their key outcomes, knowledge and awareness building, which is part of a journey toward economic prosperity, which is on a path to individual and community well-being. So we've been able to take 144 different metrics and organize them into a story. There was a much harder to read version of this that shows all the individual metrics from all the different social purpose organizations into a story about how these groups are working together to create the transformative change that is on their mind. And we have been able to do that without imposing top-down metrics, but rather this bottom-up approach to measurement that gives flexibility to the social purpose organizations and those they serve to define what impact measurement means for them and what they want it to be. It is in this way that this is one of the ways that we are hoping to create space and power shifts for all social purpose organizations, and particularly Indigenous approaches. So we think it works. We think this means that funders can meet their reporting needs while not imposing rigid structures on social purpose organizations. All right. We are now going to talk a little bit about the Common Impact Data Standard, which had two main milestones in the past year. And one of them is we got much better at talking about it. And so I'm going to pass to Valerie so you can get a break from my voice. So over to you, Valerie.
Thanks, Kate. So we worked really hard to get better at communicating about the Common Impact Data Standard. It's really technical. I know it certainly took me quite a while to wrap my head around when I joined the organization. So as part of this work, to improve how we're explaining it to people, we developed a resource diving into the concept of the data ontology. Why is that the topic? Because the Common Impact Data Standard is a data ontology. Something that I learned when we started building this resource. So it is meant to help grow the capacity and understanding around what an impact data ontology can bring to the social purpose ecosystem. So what you can see on the screen is my favorite part of this work. We use the animal kingdom as an example, something that many of us are familiar with from school. And it allows you to understand the difference between a vocabulary, which is what gives you definitions, a taxonomy, which gives you hierarchies, and then an ontology, which gives you properties and relationships between these things. And it meant we got to put cute animal pictures in a resource, which is not something we often get to do when talking about data standards. So the impact investing field already has vocabularies and taxonomies. Impact Frontiers 5 Dimensions of Impact are an example of a vocabulary. The UN's Social Development Goals, which has goals, targets, and indicators, is a taxonomy. So an impact data ontology connects these things. These connections, well structured in data, provide more context around and more insights into the data that's already being collected. So what this means is that the ontology increases the ability to draw insights out of that data through better connections rather than needing to do even more data collection. We were really grateful to New Venture Funds for funding our work on this resource. We were really excited to share this with you earlier this year and are really grateful to the positive reception that we received. So just want to take a minute to thank everyone that reached out to let us know that they found it useful, and to those who shared it with their networks. And if you haven't already, we hope you'll take a look at it. The link will be in the chat for you shortly. There are 4 reports in total. So it is a bit of a read, but there's also 2 great infographics that nicely summarize if reading 60 pages about data ontologies isn't your jam, but it is divided into sections as well. So it's meant to be approachable and you can pick the parts of it that are most relevant to you. I hope you enjoy and also find it useful. And I will throw it back over to Kate.
I'm going to give you a few updates on the Common Impact Data Standard. I describe, as I mentioned, the Common Impact Data Standard is crucial to enabling the vision of the Common Approach. It is a key part of how we are creating space for social purpose organizations to take control of their own impact measurement and to have the data flow from social purpose organizations and those they serve to investors, having those, those SPOs and those they serve, telling the investors and the funders, this is what we need. This is what we want you to know about us. You ask, what can you tell us? This is how the data standard speaks from the grassroots to the money. It's really crucial. It's also exceedingly boring. So stay with me, but we are going to get through it. It is just an incredible fundamental piece of infrastructure, but it's a little bit like getting into the details of urban plumbing. I don't know. I've never done that. Maybe it's fascinating. So version 3 of the data standard has been guided by the technical committee. Thank you. I saw Liz on the call. Thank you to you. We held a public review from July to September 2024. This is an opportunity for anybody in the world to make suggestions on how the data standard could be improved, fixed, tweaked, etc. Those comments are being reviewed currently, and the version 3 will be released in October. Here are the changes. So we added some new classes: target, stakeholder report, and characteristic report. We had stakeholder, we had characteristic, but those were both definitions of intended stakeholders and their intended characteristics. What we needed was a way to say, despite what was intended, what actually happened, and record what happened so that a social purpose organization can talk about who they served in 2024 and who they served in 2025 and who they served in 2026 and the characteristics of those folks, without always overwriting their intended audience. So we did that by creating this report feature. We then made some very simple changes to the existing ontology. For example, we had named something a logic model when it goes from activities to inputs to outputs to outcomes. We've called that a logic model. It's a reasonable name, but it's very similar to theory of change and some other things. And so we named it more broadly impact pathway, which is sort of the emerging general term for that structure. And then within that logic model is a more specified articulation. Theory of change is a more specified articulation, et cetera. So old wine, new bottles. We made some fixes in the classes that made a new class called impact norms class redundant. So we took it out. The outcomes chain class had not had output. We put it in. A fairly big one, actually, is that we heard from community from our Pathfinder pilot that we needed units of measure separately. What was happening in the analysis is we had an organization's metric. I'm going to just pick something really simple like number of people served and a number, 37. But what we were finding is we had to read the metric to figure out what was 37. And so now with this new change, it'll say number of people served, 37 people. And we have heard from many that that is going to make the data cleaning and the analysis much faster. For organization with property was built into indicator class, this makes aggregating multiple organizations easier. I hope with this I have communicated that it is boring, but also this attention to detail is what makes it effective. Some highlights: we've also created a social finance fund companion module. The key things is it's relevant for social finance fund intermediaries and wholesalers. It's on the same schedule as the Common Impact Data Standard version 3.0. So it's had a public review, comments are under review internally, and the new version will be released imminently. The key thing I think I want to share with you in the context of our annual general meeting is that these are, we want it in order. We wanted to make sure that organizations in the social finance fund did not have multiple reporting processes. So we wanted to get all their reporting into the Common Impact Data Standard because we're claiming that's a key feature of what we offer, and we wanted to bring that feature to life. That said, we did not want ESDC Social Finance Fund defining these terms for all organizations globally. This is really, some of these terms are very specific to Canada. So we've created this specific module as a way around that, so as to not be too prescriptive outside of the Social Finance Fund, while also accommodating the needs of the Social Finance Fund. That was the rationale. Eh bien, en français aussi. And it is with my pleasure that I can now pass off our biggest chunk, I would say our biggest chunk of our work, which is Common Approach's work with Canada's Social Finance Fund, to the amazing Laurentia, who manages this all with grace and ease and patience. So over to you, Laurentia.
Thank you, Kate. Merci. So yeah, a lot of work has been done in supporting the impact measurement for the Social Finance Fund over the past year. It's when I joined Common Approach. So about our role with the Social Finance Fund, we are working on the impact measurement approach of the Government of Canada Social Finance Fund with Realized Capital Partners and the two other wholesalers, so Cap Finance and Boan Social Impact. And what we're going to do for the first year of the Social Finance Fund, Common Approach is going to support and is supporting and is going to support all Social Finance Fund participants in implementing the Common Impact Data Standard. So it's easier to measure and actually share the data, the impact data across the capital chain. And we have now been working with the Social Finance Fund for over a year. So for the first year, Kate, if you want to go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. We focus our collaboration with wholesaler and with ESDC on creating kind of like a shared vision, common understanding of terms, but also developing a high-level implementation roadmap for the impact measurement for the Social Finance Fund. So we kind of develop resources explaining the impact measurement data process and data flow plan for the Social Finance Fund. And here you can see actually two extract of simplified version of those resources on the screen. So on the left, you have the process map that showed the different strategy at the different stages, at a macro level, according to the different key players of the Social Finance Fund. So you see wholesaler, social finance intermediaries, and social purpose organization, and what are the interconnection of the different steps for each of these stakeholders. On the right, it's a data flow diagram outlining how information will move actually from social purpose organization to social finance intermediaries and to wholesaler. This is recent, and we are going to actually share this and review this in our next info session that will be held on October 3rd. In addition to that, we have been working directly with wholesalers, directly with social finance intermediaries to support their adoption of the Common Impact Data Standard, which is actually a requirement of the Social Finance Fund. So we have started to collaborate with each wholesaler, each social finance intermediaries in developing customized implementation plan. So it's really about understanding the context and trying to help them to find the best way to adopt the Common Impact Data Standard. So we have started this year, and we'll continue to do this in the next years. And starting from now, also we are going to starting up for now, and maybe over the next year or 2 years, we're going to support also directly social purpose organization with customized implementation plan. And then we are going to move to broadcast style resources, because we want to ensure that the resources that we're going to communicate are useful and grounded in community. So we're going to talk to SPOs a lot in the next year. Common Approach has also been working to ease the adoption process. So we've been building tools to allow kind of like short-term use of Excel and Airtable. So because we know that everyone loves their spreadsheet, so we're trying to take it step by step. But eventually, all data will need to be input into software that are aligned to the Common Impact Data Standard. And the team is also working with software to ensure that all the functionalities needed are available. And we're also working to increase the variety of the different line software options for social finance fund participants in particular. We are currently have 12 software that are either aligned or in the process of aligning. So the list is growing. It's very exciting. Finally, also Common Approach is developing and circulating communication materials to support social finance intermediaries and social purpose organization in meeting the impact data requirement for the Social Finance Fund. So we have a dedicated page on our website. So under project and events, you can find a page with information about our role in the Social Finance Fund and all of these resources about kind of like requirements. And it's a wide range of different topics, and we are still developing, so more on the way. We also have a working files page, so where everyone that is interested in working with the Social Finance Fund can find agendas and write-ups from the different working groups we have been facilitating or participating in. So in particular, there's documents about the data collection working group we have with wholesalers and ESDC. And there's also documents about our work with the demographic data expert group. And all this is part of our commitment to actually conducting this work openly and transparently, so you can really see everything. And we also held 7 info sessions to date. And all the presentation portion of those info sessions are available on our YouTube channel. And it's really a good opportunity for us to hear feedback, hear what are the questions from participants, and help us shape actually the materials and future materials that we are developing. And again, I'm saying this again, but if you're involved in the Social Finance Fund, if you're a social finance intermediary, we hope we can see you in our future session on October 3rd. So I think it's a great segue into the next part of our presentation. Valerie, I hand it over to you.
Thanks, Laurentia. So I'm going to speak about growing our community. As Kate mentioned, being community-driven is an extremely important part of Common Approach's work and a big focus of how we conduct that work. We're happy to report that over the last year, our audience has continued to grow. So lots of indications that we're continuing to reach more and more people across our broad outreach, which complements the more one-on-one or focused outreach that the rest of the team is doing in our meetings with softwares and working with the Pathfinder pilot and Social Finance Fund participants, or additional one-on-one work as well. So this is more about the big broadcast stuff that we do. So our email subscriber and follower numbers on LinkedIn and YouTube has increased. We sort of waded into YouTube over the last year, and we're really excited to continue development on the amount of video content that we have available for our audience. It's nice to not always have to be reading things, so we're leaning into that in the coming year. We also continue to host online events. These are such an important way that we get to engage with our community. For example, today, so great to see so many people here. We held 17 events between June 2023 and May 2024. Many of these were recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel. I think the link has already been dropped in the chat, but Rachel, maybe you can drop it again. So if you are curious to see the kind of things that we're sharing in these events, or if you missed one that you thought the topic looked interesting, you can go back and watch those presentations. And we hope you will keep an eye on our events page and join us in future. And now we're going to look ahead to the coming year briefly. So one of the very exciting things about the last year is that our staff team has continued to grow. When we pause for the Q&A, we'll take a moment to let everyone wave who doesn't mind being on camera today. But you can also find that information on our website. And we are very excited to soon have a new member joining the team. We are hiring for head of Common Foundation, so our team will be growing again very shortly. Another big focus of the coming year will be continuing to evolve our standards. So with the hiring of a new head of Common Foundations, we'll come starting to work on Common Foundations version 3.0. So we've been learning a lot about the Common Foundations, again, through our work with the Pathfinder pilot and the Social Finance Fund, and just through work and hearing from the community and the Social Purpose Organization Council. So applying those learnings to the next version of the Common Foundations to continue to make sure that it is a useful standard that helps SPOs meet that minimum threshold for effective impact measurement. We're also working on better articulating our vision for the future of impact measurement and what it means for different members of our community. We talk a lot about how we're now, like the standards are in the world, they're being used. So we have more stories to tell. We're very excited to be able to share real examples of how things are working with our community. The SPO Council has been a really important part of this work, as have all the people that we're learning from in the Pathfinder pilot and the Social Finance Fund. And as always, we are eager to continue to collaborate with our community. So that's SPOs, impact investors, funders, softwares, others in the social innovation and social finance ecosystem. We will be sure to share any opportunities to get involved in our work with you. We do that most often via our newsletter, if you're not subscribed, on our website, and also on LinkedIn. And we always love to hear from you. So if you have a burning thing you'd like to discuss with us, the easiest way to get in touch is to send a note to info@commonapproach.org, and someone will get back to you very quickly. And now I want to take a minute to thank a whole bunch of people. We are community driven, and therefore all of this work happens with not just our governance groups that we mentioned earlier, but a lot of other people as well. First, we want to take a minute to thank our funders, without whom this work would not be possible. Next, Laurentia mentioned shortly before me that we have 12 softwares that are aligned or in the process of aligning. These softwares have chosen to support the Common Impact Data Standard by integrating it into their software. That show of support and belief that the data standard adds value is really, really important to us. And it means that we have a great array of tools to be able to offer to organizations who want to be using the Common Impact Data Standard. So just want to take a minute to thank those who have aligned and those that are going through the process right now. And we hope to have even more logos on this slide next year. And then finally, just a broad thank you to everyone who contributes to and supports the work of Common Approach. So we're extremely grateful to our growing community. That includes our governing groups, the participants in the Pathfinder pilot, our partners and collaborators in the Social Finance Fund, but also all the individuals and organizations who help share our standards, share their experience with our standards, and help to amplify our work online or in conversations that they're having with their colleagues and networks. And I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to our outgoing board members, Mike, Janelle, and Beatrice. They've been on the board for, I believe, a few years each now, and we are extremely grateful for all that you have contributed during your tenure on our board. So thank you so much.